आधे बाउल दही में 4 चम्मच MDH चटनी पुदीना मसाला डाला, स्टर करो, पुदीना चटनी तैयार। MDH चटनी पुदीना मसाला।
From the Republic Media Network headquarters, it's time for Arnab Goswami on the debate. Arnab Goswami on the debate.
On the show tonight, a huge revelation on Operation Sindoor. A big admission by the then principal advisor to the Ministry of Defence that we did touch Pakistan's nuclear base. At 9 o'clock tonight, while the Pakistani dossier, their document admits that India hit not 1, not 2, not 5, but many more of their targets, that it was a precise and deep hit. At the start of the program, I want to talk a little bit, ladies and gentlemen, about a huge bit of information that came into our studios when we did an interview with Lieutenant General Vinod G. Khandare. Now, Lieutenant General Vinod G. Kandare is with us this evening from Bengaluru. Good evening, sir. It's a pleasure to have you. And I was watching your interview, and it gives us a big talking point for tonight. So there he is, General Khandare. And let me introduce him. He is and has been, till a few days back, till the 16th, in fact, he has been principal advisor to the Raksha Mantri at the Minister of Defence. So he had a completely inside view on what happened during Operation Sindoor. In the course of an interview that he has done, where we get a sense of the insider story of what happened during Operation Sindoor, General Kandare revealed to Shravan Sen, our senior editor, that India did hit, and I repeat the words, that India did hit nuclear bases in Pakistan. He didn't specify the date, but he said we did hit it. Shravan asked him, did you target the nuclear bases? To which he said, I'm never going to admit, and we are obviously not going to say that we targeted the nuclear bases, but he said that in the process of hitting Pakistan, we did end up hitting the nuclear bases as well. And then he went on to say, when he was asked, that this made Pakistan extremely nervous and shaky, and in his words, it put a lot of fear and a lot of apprehension in Pakistan. And as a result of this fear and apprehension, this, in his view, the hitting of the nuclear bases was the turning point in Operation Sindoor, when we got a completely upper hand over the Pakistanis. Now, viewers, see the significance of this statement. It is the first time ever that anybody who has been part of the operating team during Operation Sindoor, right there in the Ministry of Defence, has said that we did hit a nuclear base. And he has said that this was a turning point. And no, we are not putting words in General Khandare's mouth. We could never do that. And that's why we've called him live, and we can talk in more detail about it. What are the questions which emerge from this statement? This admission, if I were to use the word admission, implicitly confirms India's strike on Pakistan's nuclear sites. Till tonight, till we broke this story, this entire issue had a sense of perceived ambiguity. You would hear about it. These visuals were put out there. We knew what happened at Noor Khan Airbase. We knew what happened at Kirana Hills. But there was no official confirmation. As usual, Republic is here before you with the most important official confirmation on this matter. That, and presumably in the early hours of 10th of May, we hit Pakistan's nuclear sites. Now remember that orange cloud that you're seeing on your screen. Remember the unknown explosion. Remember the theories about a seismic event. Remember the news about American experts flying down, boron being brought in. the tunnel which had the nuclear bases. And now you know that that was not a piece of fiction. It was not written in the newsrooms of Republic. It did happen. At a strategic level, what does this signify? It signifies an incredible amount of political commitment in India. Incredible amount of political commitment to hit Pakistan and make Pakistan suffer. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a big story. It is the lead story of the day. And we have the newsmaker joining us right on the other side.
Thank you for telling us that Kirana Hill houses some nuclear installation. We did not know about it. Okay. And we've not hit Kirana Hills, whatever is there. Okay. I did not brief in my briefing yesterday. Thank you.
This was Air Marshal A.K. Bharti's first response when asked whether India has hit Pakistan's nuclear sites. It was a denial, but the smile did leave the room for speculation. 21 days later, the first ever confirmation has come.
There was a lot of talk happening that the nuclear sites were also being targeted. Was that true? Did we actually manage to at least come very close or somewhere close?
Okay, you remember what the DG Air Ops mentioned? In fact, a media person asked him that, did you target? And he said, you tell me. So obviously at the international level, are you going to say that you targeted? Obviously you didn't target. It got hit and it put a lot of fear and apprehension in the mind of the people there as to what is the condition.
Was that the turning point?
Possibly, yes. Possibly, yes.
We did not target. It got hit. These are the words coming directly from the military advisor to Defence Minister during Operation Sindoor. The former Deputy National Security Advisor, Lieutenant General Vinod Khandare. He is one of India's foremost strategic mind, having worked very closely with National Security Advisor Ajit Doval. The speculation has now been put to rest. Pakistan's nuclear facility at Noor Khan was hit but not targeted. This explains Pakistan's next steps. Listen in why Pakistan panicked, got on their knees and begged for ceasefire.
So, if you've hit very valuable targets, so you've chosen your targets well.
Right.
If you hit them so hard that they've got to reach out to you, so you've done your delivery of your arsenal very well. So I think that by itself, what did you hit? How quickly did you hit them? How hard you hit them?
For those who kept raising questions on the ceasefire, this is another confirmation of how a panicked and distraught Pakistan called India.
They reached out to us and they said, enough. So we said, okay, if you've learned a lesson, that's all right.
We would not stop if Pakistan had not begged for the ceasefire.
What I meant to ask, were we stopping there? Had Pakistan not dialed United States of America, then would India have stopped?
No.
India's policy during the entire conflict has been measured and calibrated. While we did demolish terror dens, we did not begin the targeting of military installations. The strike on Pakistan's air bases came as a response to Pakistan's swarm of armed drones which targeted at least 15 Indian cities. Since the commencement of Operation Sindoor, Pakistan is trying very hard to keep a strong face. But India's military doctrine has now changed.
आतंक के विरुद्ध भारत की लक्ष्मण रेखा अब एकदम स्पष्ट है। अब फिर कोई टेरर अटैक हुआ तो भारत जवाब देगा, पक्का जवाब देगा। दुनिया भी भारत के इस नए रूप को इस नई व्यवस्था को समझते हुए ही आगे बढ़ रही है.
Pakistan knows that business as usual is no more the norm. New India has zero tolerance for Pakistan's terror tactics. New India does not forgive. New India knows how to punish the perpetrators in their own homes.
And this is a very important conversation today, ladies and gentlemen. So if you're watching this at home or on streaming, you can ask others to also come in. I have with me Lieutenant General Khandare. Lieutenant General Kandare has held various important positions in the Indian Army and has till recently, till a few days back, been the military advisor, the principal advisor to the Ministry of Defence during Operation Sindoor, which obviously has given him a very important operational role, advisory role, and more than a ringside view. General Kandare, good evening and welcome. Thank you for joining us. I hope you can hear me clearly, sir.
Yes, Arnab, good evening. Jai Hind to all your viewers. I can hear you clearly.
Jai Hind, sir. Sir, I'll come straight to the point. Did we hit Pakistan's nuclear facilities during Operation Sindoor? Did we hit their nuclear facilities or nuclear bases or nuclear storage hubs?
You know, Arnab, we are strategic analysts. You know, when we do analysis, we do it in a manner that we join the dots. Every possible input, whatever we get, and our analysis leads us to an assessment, which is up to the event and even subsequent to the event. So when I say what made me conclude this, I want to tell you whatever happened on that night, I want to take you a step ahead. Can we do that?
Let's do that. We have all the time, sir. We have all the time, but I would request my team to not just mention that you're a defense expert, but that you have been till recently, the principal advisor to the MOD. Please continue, sir. Please. Yes, sir.
I'll walk you through, Arnab, and your viewers to understand the psychology of Pakistan military leaders, and that will give you an insight as to how they behave. Now, my first point here is, you look at the history. Whenever a Pakistani military leader has failed, he has got promoted. Now, take for example, there was a coup, Field Marshal Ayub Khan. Then you look at this Pervez Musharraf, he becomes the head of the state. And now this person, on 12th, we had that heinous crime. 22nd, we had that heinous crime. Prior to that, on 17th, he had given a hate speech about India to the diaspora of Pakistan and telling them that the two-nation theory holds good. And he had also amplified to say that if we are going to adopt or adapt to the Western civilization, then why the hell did we create a Pakistan? You go into the mind of this man and you'll realize what I'm trying to tell you. Now, this was on 17th, on 22nd this happened. 26th, this man goes to Kakul and he's telling the young minds there that this two-nation theory and how India needs to be tackled. There is no thought, there is no compassion, there is no sense of emotion to say that civilians, tourists have been killed on the other side of the line of control. Then, after this kind of a military disgrace or a failure that he goes through, I am sure he goes and tells the stooges that are there in the political hierarchy that better promote me so that the failure can be turned into a victory. And the only thing that combines the population of Pakistan is Hate India campaign. Now, all that together, if let us say, I am saying hypothetically, if he had not done this, history would have remembered him as a failure. So he has diverted the attention very carefully and taken it as a victory. And this is the psychology of military incompetence of Pakistan leaders. When you join the dots, you realize that how big a failure could have been inscribed in their history. And he's turned it by just getting himself the field marshal's post, the coveted post. And he hasn't quit from the chief of army staff post, which Ayub Khan had done earlier. So please join all the dots in the cognitive domain and you'll understand why. It's not what, it is why. You have to understand why it is being done like this.
So I go back to the issue when we were hitting Pakistan. When we hit them, we first hit them on the 6th, 7th morning. We hit them on 8th and then we hit them on 9th, late night, 10th, early morning. In that period, they had the option of not hitting back, but they continued their drone strikes and they had a few unsuccessful attempts at sending PL-15 missiles and trying to target our air bases in different areas. When you said to Shravan that we didn't target the nuclear bases, but they got hit. How do we conclude, sir, that they got hit? Because what are the points of information we have which lead us to the conclusion that they possibly got hit?
You know, Arnab, the first part you covered when you introduced the topic, when you said what was happening there, the kind of rectification measures that were done. So you join the dots, you know, you will come to the conclusion yourself. You join the dots that somebody rings up our DGMO, and our DGMOs are officers of the highest caliber and character. And he tells them that, look, we've got to stop. For the previous 2 days, where was the Chief of Army Staff of Pakistan? Was he traceable? It is very natural to assume that he was in his command post because we had been targeting so accurately. So the point is, you have to keep joining the dots, analyze and come to an assessment. And thereafter, when information started trickling in, leading to a thinking that something drastic has happened, there could have been something which triggered the seismic tremors. Seismic tremors only in that area? Why not elsewhere? Why only after that hit? You know, we have to keep asking ourselves questions and we have to come to deductions. When all this news that came up about a plane coming from Egypt and the kind of possibility that something has gone wrong there, that was in the fog of war. In the fog of war, nobody is able to say anything. It is only after you sit down, you join the dots and you realize what is the psyche of the person, whether to admit failure? No. Pakistani general will never accept a failure. You remember Niazi just 1 day before surrender, what bravado he was displaying? So whenever you're looking at your adversary, you have to look at the entire background that you have. We talk about a background intelligence, legacy data, and the current part. And thereafter you do a very careful analysis and assessment.
Now the Noor Khan Airbase near Chaklala, in Chaklala near Rawalpindi, is critical to the airlift operations, strategic airlift operations, and it is near the headquarters of the Pakistan Strategic Plans Division, which oversees the country's nuclear arsenal. So when we targeted this strike, when we targeted this area very specifically down to a meter, so obviously we knew, did we not know that this is very important from the nuclear point of view? We would have had that information with us.
When we choose targets, I must compliment the Chief of Air Staff and his staff, the Director General of Air Operations. It's well. So if
Obviously, it is not what we had originally intended to actually hit something and hit it hard. And that is the thing I would say. I would give full marks to the our officers that they planned everything well. And if what Pakistan may not have declared their location, but we possibly thought it to be a conventional target, and it went into their nuclear arsenal, or it possibly damaged something, may not have hit the stockpile. But obviously our targets, when we chose, we did not choose a nuclear target.
We did not choose a nuclear target.
But we knew there was a nuclear facility there or a nuclear control center there.
A nuclear control center is different from a stockpile, you know. A nuclear control center is where all the mechanism is there, the communications are there, the shelter is there, all that is a part of the command and control center. And even the command and control center is extremely important because the communications at any stage should not get damaged. So, the command control center is equally important. It's a vital object.
So we by hitting Chaklala, we decapitated their nuclear command or made it dysfunctional for a while?
Whether we made it dysfunctional or not would be based on the response that we got from them, that they wanted a ceasefire.
So the fact that they wanted a ceasefire indicates that their nuclear command center was hit and they had lost control.
That's exactly what I am implying, Arnab, that when we have to read everything and their actions or reactions, it leads you to a conclusion. That's what exactly I have been telling.
But Kirana Hills was where they kept their nuclear arsenal, and that was also hit. That is where it was believed to be a storage depot.
Again, the point here is every year there is a disclosure to the International Atomic Energy Agency as to where these stockpiles are, what is their security, there is a proper audit that is done. So that part, okay, that is there, but Kirana Hills is okay, but exactly to the meter, we did not definitely aim at that.
So we didn't aim at a nuclear stockpile, but we could have hit it.
That's possible. That's highly possible.
That's highly possible. So we knew that because there was talk of an orange cloud, boron being sent, a sense of, there was loss of information for a while, and then the desperate calls for a ceasefire. So if I connect the dots here, General Khandare, we hit Kirana Hills. Okay, technically we did not target their nuclear base, but their nuclear storage, their nuclear command could have been hit. And then you say they became nervous after that.
And that nervousness, how it gets translated thereafter, and in the beginning itself I told you what is the kind of actions that their leadership took. That was a very quick cover-up, I must say. That was a very quick cover-up. Within days, because Pakistan will fall apart if Pakistan army is not supported by the people. And the people had started rebelling against the army. You just take your mind back to the last 2 years, or since the time Imran Khan is in jail. And this was the time when the top leadership there realized that if this military failure gets to the people, then obviously there is no survival for the military or whatever is of the political hierarchy which is in power today. The entire thing would have collapsed because of the wrath of the people. And they did a quick cover-up and they did a quick demonstration of a victory which was based on total falsehood.
Now let's go back.
And that's exactly when you take yourself ahead. You realize what kind of a cover-up and what kind of a brain they have.
I want to take you back because I am very interested in the nuclear issue. Following these strikes and around the time of these dates were the time when Shahbaz Sharif called an emergency meeting of the National Command Authority, which is the supreme decision-making body for nuclear weapons. They never accepted this meeting happened. But now I'm connecting the dots where you're saying we didn't hit the nuclear sites. We didn't target them, but they could have got hit. We didn't target them, but they could have got hit. And then there was this sense of panic in Islamabad, and America got in quite actively. Possibly Pakistan called America and said, our nuclear storage has been compromised. We've lost temporarily control of our nuclear command. You must do something. Was that the situation which emerged on the 10th?
The panic in the leadership, as you explained, Arnab, what is the leadership that we are looking at? There is a perpetual panic always in their political leadership, so leave that aside. But if there is a panic in the military leadership, that is something very serious. And that's exactly what happened.
So they panicked because it was obviously related to a possible nuclear hit. I personally think, General Khandare, and now I will welcome General G.D. Bakshi into this conversation, people who you know, and Lieutenant General Raj Shukla as well. Ladies and gentlemen, this is an incredibly important conversation, General Bakshi and General Shukla, because General Kandare has been in the MOD when it happened. He was an advisor to Raksha Mantri till a few days back, so he was in the inner circle. I first want General Bakshi and General Bakshi, your take on how you're reading the information. Obviously, I understand. I completely, viewers also understand this. There are things that General Kandare cannot say because he was in an operating role during Operation Sindoor. But he's indicating pretty much on the lines that you said, General Bakshi, isn't he? What he's sharing with us tonight. And it will make headlines because we are saying we possibly hit their nuclear weapons, nuclear arsenal, or where they were stored or where they were controlled from. And it's a very big move. It's a very decisive move from India's perspective, historically.
Arnab, you may recall that it was on your channel that I had first said that sources, open sources intelligence clearly indicates the probability that nuclear storage sites for the storage of warheads have been hit, not just in the Kirana Hills near Sargodha, but also in the Chagai Hills near Jacobabad. Jacobabad is the base where the F-16 fighters are, many of which have been modified for toss bombing, right? And again, you have the missile regiment, which is tactical ballistic missile regiment. Their warheads are stored in the Kirana Hills, right? And at the Noor Khan Airbase itself is the location of their nuclear command post, the so-called National Command Authority, right? Now, whether we hit it by design and accident, I'm not sure, but the fact of the matter is that all these three were hit. There is the chain of corroborative evidence. You know, the chain of corroborative evidence is that on the very morning of the 10th, the US Nuclear Energy Authority, they have their nuclear warning aircraft, the Beechcraft B350.
Yeah.
We even have the number that was assigned to it for the flight path, etc.
Correct.
It flew over the Chagai Hills, it flew over the Kirana Hills, it landed at Noor Khan.
Yes, sir.
Immediately thereafter, we get the next news that the IL-76 from Egypt, carrying the boron-10 isotope. Don't forget that the Nile Delta is full of the boron-10 isotope is available there. That landed, followed a zigzag path over these kind of sites and was there for the whole day, right? So if you put this circumstantial evidence together, and let me go a little back, 10th morning.
Yes, sir.
10th morning, we get the news that a Shaheen 2 missile with a 750 kg warhead has been fired. It is heading in the direction of Delhi. Right? Now 750 kg means it could be a nuclear warhead, it could be a conventional warhead. So I can just presume what went on in the operations control room when they found this missile heading. We couldn't wait to find out whether it was a conventional tipped missile or it was a nuclear tipped missile.
Correct.
Right? It would have been too late to find out when it exploded.
Right,
So
right.
quite obviously, the first decision was to get it down any which way possible. I am given to understand that 2 S-400s were fired, and they are the ones that have a kinetic hit. We saw over Chandigarh in that area, not really Chandigarh, but after that, a meteorite shower captured by a number of motorists. That happens when there is a kinetic hit on a warhead. In all probability, it was a conventional warhead because I don't think Pakistan would have dared. But could our decision makers have taken that risk? Because there was the Fateh 2 missile also heading. And we are
Right,
told
sir.
this one
So-
was heading for Amritsar,
So
probably the Golden Temple.
Yeah.
So I don't think any prudent leadership in India would have waited for that to happen.
This
It
is a-
may have been possible that decisions may have been taken that
Yeah.
night. We will never know. But decisions were taken then to tackle the
But we would not know officially,
the
but
command and control nerve
yeah,
center
we would-
for nuclear.
we would never know officially.
Officially, no. But
But-
Tom Cooper
But this is the closest we can get to it. Even more than Tom Cooper.
has corroborated.
Even more than Tom Cooper, General Bakshi, General Khandare was in the Ministry of Defense as advisor, principal advisor in the Ministry of Defense when this happened. So this is the closest that we can get to a confirmation that we possibly hit the nuclear sites. Now, it is difficult for me to do this, General Khandare, but I'm going to ask General Raj Shukla to analyze what you have said there while you are on. But this is getting very interesting. General Raj Shukla, the first question which comes is, obviously we hit Pakistan's nuclear facilities because that explains how Pakistan behaved as it did. There was a scare of panic, there were urgency of phone calls to Washington, and a sudden halt to the escalation. Now, when I listen to General Kandare, are we witnessing the emergence of a new Indian doctrine which is targeting directly the periphery of Pakistan's strategic assets to deliberately undercut its nuclear leverage? So when we say we are not going to be taken in with their nuclear blackmail anymore, is this decision to target places which may end up hitting nuclear bases, storage or control, is it marking a doctrinal shift to proactive signaling, sort of to blunt Pakistan's constant habitual nuclear blackmail?
So, Arnab, I've been listening very carefully to General Khandare and General G.D. Bakshi. May I caveat what I have to say by saying this, that I'm an independent observer, analyst. I have no insider information in the manner General Khandare would have had. But when I look at facts independently, I come to exactly the opposite conclusion, that India would not have hit the nuclear sites. And I'll tell you why. Look at the operational premise, the conflict design of Operation Sindoor. It was calling the schoolboy nuclear bluff in the sense that we were saying, you have nuclear weapons, we have nuclear weapons, we are very responsible with our nuclear weapons, you have not been responsible with your nuclear weapons. You have sought to create these artificial thresholds or sought to artificially lower these thresholds, and under a nuclear cover you have been going on a terror rampage. So we were saying that we know what your red lines are, we will orchestrate the entire military campaign, keep it short of your red lines. And we were saying that there is enough conventional space to deal with your terror acts without transgressing into the nuclear domain. So that was the precise politico-military objective. I will reiterate. Pakistan was saying that under the nuclear cover, we'll go on a terror rampage. And if you just give me 2 minutes, General Bakshi and General Khandare would recall, May 2002, Kalu Chak, they do exactly that. Within hours of Kalu Chak happening and Prime Minister Vajpayee saying that we will, aar par ki ladai and we will go across, Hamid Gul and Kidwai started waving the nuclear rattle. Immediately, shockwaves went to Washington. They pulled out some of their staff from the embassy in New Delhi. American businesses started exiting. And India was told that you please behave responsibly. You are causing war and this nuclear panic. So look at how cleverly Pakistan was doing all this. The perpetrator, by waving the nuclear rattle, got away, and the victim, which was responsible, was penalized. Now, Sindoor said, we will set this right. We will carry out conventional operations without crossing the nuclear threshold. Now, everything that General Khandare and General Bakshi said appeared in bits and pieces, in social media, so on and so forth. But if you look at our nuclear doctrine, what is it? It says that we will not use ballistic missiles with nuclear warheads so that our nuclear signaling is transparent. It should not be mistaken. And I presume Pakistan would reciprocate. They would not put nuclear warheads on their ballistic missiles so as to avoid the confusion that General Bakshi spoke of. So our strategic design, our politico-military objectives conveyed precisely the opposite. Now you see, subsequently, after the DG Air Ops spoke, I recall a clarification, I don't recall exactly from where, which denied, official clarification which denied this. If you see the recent statement of the CDS, they categorically deny this. And one last point, Pakistan was of course decimated, those 28 places that had been hit, but they were a consequence of our conventional might. When we had conventionally decimated them, when they had lost control of the air, they were naked, vulnerable, exposed. Why should we cross the conventional line? It does not make any sense to me. So I think that was never the objective. We didn't do it. And I don't know what the basis of General Khandare is.
So I would like
maybe he's right, but I tried very hard. I cannot understand.
I will, before I go back to General Bakshi, I'd like to go back to General Khandare with just one input from my side. With such eminent gentlemen, I don't want to show any fake knowledge on military matters, but I think that what General Kandare was suggesting, General Shukla, was that we were not crossing the threshold. We were using conventional weapons. We were not putting nuclear warheads on missiles. We were targeting places, and in the process, some nuclear related areas could have got hit. For example, the satellite imagery shows that the Mushaf Airbase in Sargodha, which is reportedly connected to underground nuclear storage beneath the Kirana Hills, where there's a tunnel, was hit by multiple loitering munitions. And this is unmissable that this base is associated with nuclear assets. Yes, you want to say something, General Shukla, first?
Let me just say this. Just one line. See, this is so important. So, we have never used nuclear warheads in Operation Sindoor. That is out of the question. I'm saying even our conventional warheads did not, either by design or by default, target any of Pakistan's nuclear facilities.
Okay, now I want General Kandare to come in on that. You heard the assessment, General Kandare, from General Shukla. I would like your views on what he has said there. When we go back to the possibility of whether nuclear-related areas were hit. General Kandare.
Okay, look at it from two angles. What did we prepare for? We prepared for everything that was conventional, including the targets, our weapon systems, everything was conventional. We have not violated our strategy. We have not done something which is different from what has been given to us. Now, in the fog of war, if something like that has happened, then obviously this is something different, And we have not targeted. I keep reiterating that, and you have also said that in our plan, where was the question of targeting any nuclear asset? We did not. But if that has got hit, that obviously is in the fog of war, it happens. And if that was not so severe, why was that reaction of panic in the apex leadership of Pakistan? I'm saying, why do we want to stop at that particular night? Why are we not willing to go ahead and join the dots and analyze, like General Bakshi has also done? We have to see it in its entirety. Please do that. That's exactly what my point is.
Sir, you said that General Khandare, you said that we are not targeting any specific nuclear facilities, target or storage places for their assets. However, you also said that there are disclosures that are made annually and biannually, perhaps by all nuclear countries, to the Atomic Energy Commission, in which you share details of which are exactly pinpointed nuclear sites, and we would probably have that information with us. And then you also said that our targets were very precise, and the CDS himself said both in
Arnab,
he said it was very precise, down to a meter. So how can we say we did not know what we were hitting and nuclear sites got hit accidentally?
That's exactly the
See,
point.
I'm still clear about it. What we targeted was never in violation to what our strategy is.
Correct. But we knew what we were hitting.
Obviously, it happens, when you are firing and when you are hitting at targets, you have fed the correct details. Now, if something has happened and it has set panic, what is your assessment after that? Why are we not going to the assessment after that?
The obvious assessment is, and General Bakshi wants to come in on that, the obvious
Can I come
assessment
in?
is
Can
they
I come
panicked
in?
because maybe something nuclear got hit. General Bakshi. General
Excuse
Bakshi.
me.
General Bakshi, interesting point in the chair.
Two quick points.
Yes, sir.
Raj, nobody ever said that we use nukes to target their nukes.
No.
Conventional munitions, precision
I
guided
didn't say that. I was
munitions,
just clarifying,
primarily
Arnab. I was
BrahMos.
clarifying, Arnab.
That is what I conclude. Can I please? Can I? Okay. Like I said, none of us have mentioned, neither me nor General Kandare have mentioned that nuclear weapons were used to target nuclear storage sites. Right? Number one. Number two, Tom Cooper has geolocated the picture of that explosion on the Kirana Hills to that exact nuclear site. Right? Number three, there is an agreement between India and Pakistan, not to target their nuclear facilities. But those nuclear facilities they include the civilian facilities, the reactors, uranium enrichment plants at Chashma and the others. None of them include the Chagai weapon storage site, the Kirana weapon storage site, or any other weapon storage site in Pakistan. Those are classified. Those are not under the purview of the IAEA. The IAEA watchdog had also gone on Twitter, on X, to state that there was no nuclear radiation in the known nuclear facilities. I am afraid the IAEA does not monitor the nuclear weapon storage sites, either at Kirana or at Chagai Hills. They are beyond the purview of this, and even if we had hit them, legally we were in the right because they are not part of the nuclear facilities list exchanged by India and Pakistan with each other. That was in the seminar that you attended, Raj, that had very clearly been brought out by the Pakistani ambassador, by the Indian ambassador. He had raised up this issue of the agreement between the two countries. Look, the circumstantial evidence is very strong that there have been explosions at the nuclear site, explosions of a magnitude which was measured on the Richter scale as 4.1 and 5.7, right? And which triggered off adequate degree of panic for radioactive sensing aircraft to be flown up the very next morning, that same morning. And also, what explains that boron? What explains the boron isotope, boron 10, which is used when there are nuclear meltdowns of reactors? So the evidence is circumstantial. I am not part of the establishment. I left it in 2008. So has Raj, and he has left it most recently, right? So I would go by my own analysis of the facts that has happened, that something happened which was adequate to create panic, not just in Pakistan, but also a degree of concern and alarm in the United States, which led to this so-called pause in operations.
So this is, we stay with the pictures, stay with that window, put me on it. We are in an interesting stage of this conversation where, see what has happened. Let me explain this before I go to General Raj Shukla again and then go back to General Khandare. See viewers, be clear about it that Operation Sindoor has rewritten the rules of the game. All the three eminent generals, all the top diplomatic voices, everybody will tell you that we have changed the definition of retaliation to terrorism. We have not stayed limited. We have gone deep inside Pakistan. This we have never done before, right? We've showcased our strategic depth. We've gone to Bahawalpur. We've gone to Punjab. We've gone to Rawalpindi. The new angle which now comes, General Raj Shukla, is that perhaps we have gone even one step further. That we have targeted assets we know which will expose Pakistan's vulnerability and at the same time gently call their nuclear bluff. You heard General Bakshi's response. I want your reading and then I go back to General Kandare. By the way, I want to tell you this, viewers. Massive viewership for this discussion on our streaming devices. People are very closely tuning in to what's happening. General Raj Shukla, please.
So see, the moot point is what General Khandare raised. That why did their DGMO come begging to us? So I am saying that they were so conventionally overwhelmed, and I am saying conventionally, they had lost control of the air. It's a humiliation for any air force. I think we had virtual air supremacy. I cannot see any conflict in recent times where the air domination was so great. And we dominated them through manned platforms and unmanned platforms with telling accuracy, telling accuracy. And the hallmark of a professional military is to hit the targets that you want to hit and not hit any of the targets that you don't want to hit. So the collapse, to answer General Kandare, was because of our conventional might. Their J-10s were running, scurrying for cover. Their J-17s were scurrying for cover. So I'm also saying this is the most, shall I say, comprehensive military victory since 1971, but entirely in the conventional domain. And this reinforces our politico-military objective, which was that the nuclear rattling, the waving of the nuclear rattle is a bogey. We have enough conventional might and generalship to stay short of the nuclear threshold and decimate you. And that is what we did, and therefore he went running for cover. Now the facts that General Bakshi has said, he's a very informed man, I respect him greatly. So those facts are true, but they have not been corroborated by any side. In fact, the CDS has categorically walked back, and he has said that we have done nothing of the sort. And as I said, even after the DGA, though the DGA Air Ops never said anything like that, but what he left unsaid was categorically denied by another statement. So it is on that basis that, I seem to come to the conclusion that there was never our objective. I don't think we strayed into any such hits. There was no need to do so. And the last point I wish to make, having said all this, I am one of those the votaries of those who say that the entire nuclear paradigm in the Sino-Indian and the Sino-Pak context needs to be revisited. This whole doctrine of transparency, ambiguity, no first use, but that is a separate matter. But as operational Sindoor, unfolded, my views I have just presented in the last 2 to 3 minutes.
I completely get it. My last point on this is back to General Khandare. General Kandare, let's leave this issue aside, because what some of at least General Bakshi and you are saying is that the signals are that Pakistan's nuclear arsenal or storage or assets got hit, they panicked, and that nervousness led to them calling America, and that is the sequence of events. However, my extremely polite disagreement with General Shukla on the matter is that I believe that the nuclear rattling will continue. That's what Pakistan has. And as we saw General Shamshad Mirza at the Shangri-La dialogue in Singapore over the last few days, just talking about how escalation will happen very quickly, things can go out of hand very quickly, diplomacy will be outpaced. All this, it was nuclear signaling, nuclear saber rattling, nothing else that they were doing. So how are we going to handle it in the future if there's another terrorist attack?
Arnab, firstly, let me be very clear about this. Most of us, and I in particular, will never trust a Pakistani, whether he gives it to us in a document form or whether he gives it to us in a declaration form. While at international level, conventions are supposed to be obeyed, but I don't think the Pakistan generalship will ever be trusted by any one of us. That is point number one. The second point I want to make is, whatever has happened, that is one part. But in that, what all can set panic? So even if the nuclear command post, the communication gets hit, then how do they communicate? What exactly is the way of retaliating, even if they decide to retaliate? So we have to look at every possible contingency that could have happened. So that is my second point. And the third point I'm saying, please look at it in future. Okay, we've done very well. There's a lot of chest thumping. We are very happy about it. That's okay. But what next? Have you seen any kind of going back to say, okay, let's cool down? Not a single general or not a single statement from Pakistan gives an indication that they will not escalate in future also.
Yeah.
I have these three small points which I wanted to make, and I'm sure if you ask General Bakshi, he may have his views on that.
Yeah, I unfortunately don't have time for that, but I must say this has been both informative, educative, and in the slight divergence of views, we've got a very strong assessment of where we stand. Either which way, I think we've come out on tops. We are a clear strategic winner. I thank you, General Raj Shukla, General G.D. Bakshi, and of course, General Vinod Kandare for joining me this evening. And ladies and gentlemen, we are continuing on this kind of track because when I come back, we have a Pakistani dossier, their own document, which shows that we hit many, many, many more targets than even we knew. Details of that when I'm back.
Time for a quick breather. Arnab will be right back with the debate.
ये है सीक्रेट रेसिपी MDH का जीरा सिप जलजीरा मसाला। सिप सिप जीरा सिप MDH का जलजीरा जीरा सिप MDH का जलजीरा जीरा सिप।